Welcome back to the Movie Vault. I'm Ben Stanhope.
And I'm Zach Leewald.
And today we are talking about, let's start off with a question. Zach, if you had to turn into an animal, if you were being forced to turn into an animal, what animal would you choose to be turned into?
I would probably choose a cephalopod.
I wish I was smart and knew what a cephalopod was.
It's not anything special.
Okay. I would choose, I don't know. This is a difficult question because
Ben would be an owl.
Yes.
He has that personality.
Okay. I'd be an owl. What is the owl personality?
Like Harry Potter. I don't know. Like a wizard comes to it for advice.
Oh, I see.
Computer. The wise guy that you come to for philosophy that will just talk to you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would do that. Whether or not the advice that you would get from the owl would be fruitful or beneficial in your life, that could probably be debated. But I could definitely talk.
Yeah.
I could definitely say some words.
That's true. Everybody knows that because they listen to us.
Well, we won't keep you waiting any longer. Today we are going to review a very special movie in my heart. Okay, maybe I shouldn't word it like that. The Lobster.
Yeah, what do you mean by that, Ben?
I know people might think I'm strange if I start talking that fondly about this movie. The Lobster is a movie directed by Greek director Yorgos Lanthimos. It came out in 2015, and it sort of made the rounds on the film festival circuit. It competed for the Palme d'Or, which is probably second most to the Academy Awards, the most important award you can receive. Probably to some people, they would argue the Palme d'Or is more important than winning, best film at the Oscars. But for American audiences, it's second. I believe it's Cannes Film Festival in France, and it did not win the Palme d'Or, but it won the jury prize, which I'd never heard of, but it's an award that's intended to recognize an original work that embodies the spirit of inquiry. So
this movie is pretty inquirious. How do you say that?
Inquirious. I don't know. I would say so. It also it made it around to some other film festivals that I'm sure are equally as
Sundance.
I don't know that it went to Sundance, but those type of film festivals.
It's definitely an artsy-fartsy kind of movie. That's what one of the reviews says.
An artsy-fartsy movie?
Yeah, because it's not like a regular movie. It's going to, like you said, what's your favorite? He's one of your favorites, right? The Greek director, what's his name?
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Is he one of your favorite directors?
Yeah, probably. I mean, if we're talking like top 15, he'd probably be in there.
So I'd say that's in your favorite directors, but it's like I think you've mentioned before a long time ago. We watched this movie a long time ago. I didn't watch it with you, but you recommended it and I watched it. But you said that he makes kind of weird movies like this that kind of make you think. And I mean, really, movies these days don't make you think that much unless, they have a cool thing to say at the end, like a nice quip. But this movie makes you think a lot. Whether or not those thoughts are good or bad is for your own interpretation. But yeah, Ben and I will probably disagree, but that's okay.
Yes. So I think for most, I'm not expecting most of our audience to necessarily go out and watch this movie. And I will say, make sure that you know what you're getting into before you watch it. Just because we review it doesn't mean we necessarily give it a sparkling recommendation, is what I would say. But it definitely promotes, it will promote an interesting conversation. So I'm going to give you a review, not a review actually, it's more of a synopsis or a small explanation of what the movie's about, written by a guy on IMDb named Hugo, so I'm sure it's pretty accurate and to the point. So it says, in a dystopian society, David, whose wife has just left him, is sent to a hotel for singles in the country. The strict hotel rules are meant in a clinical fashion to foster love, as everyone in the society, regardless of orientation, is to be paired up romantically. There are harsh punishments for anyone who breaks these rules. And like the others, if David does not find love at the hotel within 45 days, he will be surgically transformed into an animal of his own choice, David's being a lobster. This transformation is not meant to be a punishment, but rather another opportunity to find love as another species. Bob, the dog that David brings to the hotel, was in fact David's brother in his human life. David will discover that in his search for love, that his search for love is dependent on the other people at the hotel, each of who has his or her own agenda to do, in what to do if true love cannot be found within their time limit. Unaware of it upon his arrival at the hotel, David will also learn that there is a bunch of anarchists who live in the woods, many of those being escapees from the hotel. The anarchists do not tolerate coupling in any form within their group, except as a ruse whenever they need to assimilate themselves into city life. But as one cannot automatically turn on the emotional traps to find true love at the hotel, one cannot automatically turn off these taps in order to be among the anarchists. So I think this...
It's not going to make any sense to anyone.
This sort of gets at some of the points, but it certainly doesn't describe the whole movie. I think the main thing that you want to pay attention to is that is the part where in this society you must be a couple. So they don't really explain the mechanics of how that works, and that's probably good that the movie doesn't delve into that, because that would just get way too cluttered with information. But you have to be in a romantic relationship. So if for whatever reason your romantic relationship doesn't work out, you must find love in a new form, but there's a strict time limit. You only have 45 days. Now, that they don't say is that the anarchists are actually used as motivation to get more days. If you hunt the anarchists and shoot them with tranquilizers, you get an extra day for each anarchist that you shoot. So there's a bunch of things they do at the hotel. Now, I'm not exactly sure the best way to attack this, but maybe we should start with the big picture. What is Yorgos Lanthimos trying to get at by making a film like this?
I think the big picture would be maybe the most obvious aspect of the movie. The little niche things throughout the movie are less obvious, but it's what is love, like the song, but in a way that what is society set up love to be, and what do we define it as? Of course, different cultures, different beliefs will define it as different things, but he's speaking from a purely logical standpoint. What is love? What does that look like in relations with other people? And he sees the society that enforces its kind of customs on people that, obviously you only have 45 days. We have a shortened life. That's kind of what it represents. And then there's different customs that they have to do. And then you have how do people act within these societies? What do these constructs, what are their pros? What are their cons? And it kind of really only shows the cons. Because the only true love that comes out of this movie sort of is when it's natural, when they're in the forest and Rachel Weisz and David, kind of like each other because they're both nearsighted. But that's kind of the only love that comes out of it because they don't have those constructs on them. So maybe the point he's saying is without the constructs, only true love can form through then. Because with the constructs, you have the friends. One of them's pretending to have nosebleeds. The other one's pretending to be morbid, his two friends. And those aren't themselves. They were just trying to do that to relate to the other person. So they're forcing love. But the only way to have pure natural love is to take away those constructs and find it outside of that. Whether or not you agree, that's what I think that was a point that he was trying to make, a larger point.
Yeah. As far as why would he take such an absurdist idea to make this movie? And I think about it sort of like this, and Zach was describing it well with the construct of you must be in love. But then, also interestingly, not only is the construct removed when they're with the anarchists, but actually there is a new construct, which is that you can't find love. You must do everything. So then that almost makes a point that within that actually, in order to force true love to occur, there has to be something going against it, like a point of resistance that's attacking its formation, which I'm not sure that I completely agree with how that flows. But he's using all of these, very absurd scenarios, because I think what will happen for most people going to this movie, they'd be like, this is ridiculous. Why would this ever happen? This doesn't make any sense. But they're all tools to try to for Lanthimos to try to make some sort of critique of society, perhaps, for better or for worse. But there's so many, there's so many little things that you can dig apart within, and maybe we'll get to some of those. The hotel itself is interesting because when you get there, you have to do, so much emphasis is placed on you have to do things by yourself, and they're supposed to show you that doing things by yourself is as a bad thing. Like, you can't do things as well by yourself. There's one scene where they like handcuff his hand behind his back. That way he has to do everything with one hand. And that's supposed to be a representation of, well, you need two of everything. And then there's the different performances like that they do at dinner. There's like a theater where they just do different things. Like, here's a guy, I forget what the guy's doing. I know the girl, they actually have the girl walking by herself, and then they have somebody, comes out and assaults her. But then when she's with a guy, that can't happen because the guy's protecting her. That's sort of the, and there's, and I think the representation they use for guys is a guy is eating dinner by himself and he starts choking. And then he chokes to death because there's nobody there to help him. Yeah. But then he's eating with a woman, and the woman can, perform the Heimlich, and so forth. They're pretty simplistic arguments. And so they'd be pretty easy to pick apart, but most of the people in the hotel are just being, constantly reinforced that they must find somebody. Yeah. And so that
was on purpose, I think. He was just saying that society gives the dumbest reasons for these things to be enforced. And I think on top of that, like, the movie does have like a two-part to it. It's a long movie. Like, how long was it?
It's 2 hours.
Yeah, so it was like the first half of the movie. Like, Rachel Weisz doesn't show up until it says 58 minutes into the movie. So it was like the actual movie was split up into two parts when he's within those societies. And it kind of seems like I don't think this was the point, but it almost seems like David just wants what he can't have. Because when he's in the first society, he doesn't have good luck. Then he leaves. Then he goes to the other society, but then he falls in love. So it's like, yeah, but I mean, that's just the point that the director was trying to make. But yeah, I think the way that the director was saying it, like, he made those arguments simplistic to prove that there really aren't great reasons for people to be together. Like, the choking, like, of course, like, who cares?
But you could just be, have some sense of community and not be like completely isolated. And yes, you wouldn't choke to death. Now, and you could be in a relationship and be eating by yourself still. Like, in most romantic relationships, there wouldn't be like a constant presence between the two partners forever. Like, there would be points where, for whatever reason, one of them is away and the other one's still, or they're separated. So you wouldn't be able to guarantee that the person would be there. So yeah, they're not great arguments, but they're the arguments that they're being forced to listen to. And then we get to there is always in this society, there's like one thing, like, you have to have one key thing that links the people together, like a point of connection, which is probably symbolic to, like, when people talk about getting into a relationship, they talk about finding commonality with the other person. So they reduce the commonality to like a nosebleed, like you were saying, and or things like that. And so they seem kind of silly, but they're also things that like naturally occur. So like the lady naturally has a nosebleed, so now he has to make himself have a nosebleed, and it's like really representing to you that this guy's faking it to be in a relationship with this person. And I suppose it's saying that people fake commonality,
which is true. You see that in everyday life. So I think some of the points he makes are true. Yeah, just because, I mean, you could imagine like a middle school, like a group of friends in middle school, and one kid like just gets a girlfriend just for the point of getting a girlfriend, to either brag to his friends to make himself feel better, or because he thinks he's supposed to be a man, That's probably taking it more seriously than they did. They probably weren't thinking about that in middle school, or I was. I don't know. But yeah, so I think you see that in maybe not even middle school, maybe as adults too. But yeah, because being lonely, being alone in our society is seen as a sad thing a lot of times. But there are a lot of people that recognize that it's not always, But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of single people who are happy, so I'm not one of those people, who who says that everybody needs to get married, of course. But I mean, I do see the argument, but I also see like pros of like, yes, it's technically a pro that if you're choking, if you have a wife, it'll help, you know, that's technically a pro, but there are better pros than that out there that I recognize too, that weren't pointed out in this film.
Yeah.
But, you know, like having a lifelong companion, being able to have someone hold you accountable, going through life with someone, having kids, you know, so there are lots of different things that aren't recognized in this film, but that was intentional so that he could prove his point of the other side of it. So it's definitely a pointed film, kind of like what was the movie we reviewed with that was recent? Don't Look Up, but like not as offensive to me, not as like in my face, you know.
Yeah. This movie is like, it's sort of in your face when you think about it, about some things, but because it like has everything under the guise of this ridiculous premise, it takes a little bit more thought to get to some of the like, oh yeah, I can see how he was obviously trying to point that out. But one with Yorgos Lanthimos, this is consistent throughout. I've watched 3 of his movies, and I think he's made 5 or 6. So I've seen Dogtooth, The Lobster, and The Killing of a Sacred Deer. And he is very consistent in the tone of his movies. And usually they feature somewhat of a removal of human emotion to a degree, a pretty strong degree, I would say. People talk very like straightforward to the point, like unlike most people would actually speak. You know, people say things, and the way they say the things that they're saying also with like very little emotion. There's some lines in here that you're kind of like raise your eyebrows a little bit, because it's not just that they said it, but they said it with so little resistance to what they were saying. Like they weren't expecting anybody to react, you know, like strongly to what they're just saying things as they are, which we don't really do as humans. We know to have a filter and not say things exactly as we might think them, as our original thought was. We're smarter than that, but in these worlds they're not. They just kind of get to the point, and everything happens in like an even consistency. So somebody might, you know, die in the movie, or something traumatic happen, and people just kind of are like whatever. Or like when they get to the loners, there's like a person who, if they kiss, they find people kissing, they like do this. I don't exactly know what the procedure is, but they have like tape over their mouth, so they mutilated their mouth somehow. Like that's the punishment, and they just the leaders just treat it like, well, that's how it is. You know?
Yeah, but that's not as bad as what the hotel did to the single people who didn't find anybody in 45 days.
Yeah, like.
In the leading up to the 45 days, they put John C. Reilly's hand in a toaster,
right? Just
kind of making him be like, yeah, this is serious. And then they kill the people. Like it's just like
I don't know that I'm assuming the people that they hunt, they turn into animals.
Yeah,
which is like not supposed
kind
to be
of killing though, but yeah,
kind of killing in a way. Although I think the reason he does this, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, is because there are points where there is emotion, and those are like accentuated. So for example, the main character, David, does try to force a relationship. And the person that he decides to force a relationship with, the point of commonality is that they're both completely heartless. So she tests him originally by choking on an olive in a hot tub, and he just has to sit there. She's pretending, but he's not. He doesn't necessarily know that, but he just has to sit there and pretend and not do anything. And then she knows. She's like, okay, this guy's heartless because he didn't try to save me. You know, he's just sitting there and doing nothing. But he's obviously faking it, and so she's not done testing him after a little bit into their relationship, in which it's a pretty unsatisfying relationship because like when you're both heartless, you lose a lot of the good things about being in a relationship because you can't really express interest. It's more of an animalistic relationship where it's like you get, like, I guess the sole purpose would be reproduction, and there's not really much else to it.
Or to not get turned into an animal.
It's survival. And so he you can see him like sometimes he slips up a little bit and then he like covers his tracks. Well, there's one morning where she kills the dog that he brought with him, which is his brother who got turned into a dog, and he can't hold back. He starts crying and she's like, "You're faking it," and you're like, "Holy cow, this lady is like terrible. She's terrible. She killed his brother, and now she's like blaming him for being, you know, fake or whatever." And so he turns her into an animal in response. And this
Which is
like
hilarious.
the point that he runs into a hotel. And we don't see what animal he turns her into. It'd be interesting to think about, like, what would be, like, the worst animal he turned into.
I was kind of mad that they didn't reveal that when I watched it the first. Probably... that's hard. I was thinking, like, a giraffe, but those things can swing their necks, like, to attack. But it would probably be like a cockroach or something. Because insects fall under Animalia. So it's just like probably something really weak, like a ladybug.
Yeah.
So, but even ladybugs are poisonous to other... I don't know. So, what's something born to die right away? I don't know.
It would have to be the male version of something generally, though, right?
True.
There's some male insects that like really only exist to mate, and then they die.
Like praying mantis.
Yeah.
Probably, because they cut off their mates' heads, right?
Yeah. I mean, her being a female praying mantis would fit with her personality.
Yeah.
So if he was thinking that way, you know, that would be sort of giving her what she wanted in a sense, though.
Or a fruit fly, so it only lasts like 14 hours.
Yeah.
That's what I would choose if I was going to choose the worst animal. But he knew what the worst animal was. It was on his mind. But yeah. So.
Yeah, and of course then we hear him talking to the other people about what animals they would be, and the whole name of the movie comes from the fact that he would be turned into a lobster.
Mm-hmm. The actual line he says was, they asked why he chose it. He says, "Lobsters live for over 100 years. They're blue-blooded like aristocrats, and they're fertile all their lives," which is like a fair point.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're still a lobster.
You're still I don't know. Are they're bottom feeders? Are they?
I don't know.
I don't know if they're bottom feeders. That might be more like a crawfish or something.
I don't know, but I mean, it's just a logical type of thing. You know, there's no emotion in his choice. It's just logical because they have the best stats. You know, out of the animals.
And his friends are like, "That's ridiculous."
Yeah,
why would you do that?
Doesn't the hotel say that it was good though? But
yeah, they said it was good. The hotel managing staff said it was an excellent choice. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, so I mean, the blue-blooded thing is stupid because like it's just the color of your blood.
Yeah, like, and it's even a metaphor. Like aristocrats don't have blue blood, like actually.
Yeah, so I don't know. So, but yeah, it's the choice he made. I mean, if you're gonna turn into an animal, yeah, if I had to choose. I don't know. This is such a dumb question, but if I had to choose, I really don't know. I would not want to be a turtle. I don't want to live 100 years going so slow.
Or a tortoise.
Yeah, a tortoise, yeah. But I don't know.
Tortoises have a pretty, like... Do they really have many predators? They're, like, big. And they
have a lot of protection.
And they get to, you know, just kind of lounge their whole lives. But you wouldn't like that. I don't think.
No, I think I'd be some type of bird, like a hawk or something.
A hawk. Yeah.
I think that'd be fun because not only do you migrate, but you also, like, you migrate to stay warm. You also get to travel the country.
Yeah.
You can fly. You're a top predator a lot of times. So.
Yeah. So there's not really any animal that could kill you. The only thing that you're going up against would be like the elements, like everyone else.
Or a bald eagle.
Bald eagle, that would be cool.
Because the country loves me anyway. So,
and you're a protected species.
Yeah, I'll be protected. So there's a lot of things. I picked bald eagle.
Yeah, bald eagle is a good choice.
And I'm on the quarter.
You're on the quarter. You're like, oh, look, there's me.
So yeah, that would be. What about you?
I don't know. A bald eagle is definitely a good one. I always like end up going to like the large cats. But there's got to be some sort of, like a tiger.
Yeah.
But those would be a pretty normal choice. Like I know dog is the one because they relate most to the humans. They're like, everyone decides they want to be a dog. So they're kind of like idiots decide that they want to be dogs.
It would be terrible being a house dog.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I mean, you would get love, but you have to be sort of like under somebody's thumb.
Yeah, but you're always either put in a crate or you're left home all day. So you're really just laying around half the day.
To get your like 10 minutes of human affection.
Yeah.
and then they like, but you're like second tier to like kids, so
Yeah.
you never get to be like on an equal playing field.
Third
with
tier
them.
to kids and iPads.
Now, maybe there are some people who treat their dogs on the same level of their kids, but those people are a little scary. So
They do scare me. Yeah, so I don't know. What do you have a choice?
I don't think I have a firm
Tiger?
choice. I guess I just go with tiger because kind of similar reason to why you would pick. They're top predator. They're very fast and agile. The only thing is that I think a lot of tigers are now endangered and they tend to be hunted because people are scared of them, or like you have to like sort of mind yourself around humans because they could be more aggressive towards humans than bald eagles are, so they tend to have a less positive always like,
so you would be afraid of humans?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not like humans are obviously not a threat other than the fact that they can make really impressive technology. Without that, they would be easily consumable. Other than the sheer amount of humans, though, would also be difficult to overcome. But you get that like top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Kind of like you're like lions get the whole like king of the jungle thing, but tigers seem a little bit more. Yeah,
less responsibility.
Agile,
don't have to run a kingdom.
Yeah, right. You don't have to like raise your son up and have a baboon like
Simba. Yeah, I know. But yeah, okay, tiger's good, I guess. But you're not on national currency. That's the only thing.
No.
So.
I mean, there might be a national currency that has a tiger on it. Like, do you think...
You're not going to have that though.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so I have a couple Google reviews that I kind of wanted to say.
Let's hear what the people think of this movie.
I'm not going to say any names, but I've learned that Google comments are kind of like TikTok comments. So the first one I found was utter drivel. It just becomes a contrivance of random moments to try and draw you in, but fails on every count. Not worth time or energy to watch.
Wow.
I picked these randomly. I'm not searching out bad reviews. The next one was, shoot me now so I can unsee this movie. The next one was, I feel like I've wasted too much time in this day. Next one was, this one I agree with. Complex but simple, simple but complex. Kind of. Next one is, not the worst film I've ever seen, but pretty close. And then this one is funny. I saw this on a cruise and it made me want to jump ship. And the other one was, only just started watching and my biggest concern is for the dog.
Well, I'm sorry for that person.
Yeah. And then awful. Next time I'll read the reviews and come to the opposite conclusion of the recommendations. And yeah. And the other one is a dog is stabbed to death and there's a lot of uncomfortable sex stuff. Why do people find this funny? Which I agree with at some level.
Yeah, that is the thing about this movie is that it is marketed as a black comedy. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know that I really laughed that much during this movie because I think I went in expecting the absurdist parts. So like I think some of the laughter is more like uncomfortable laughter. Like you're laughing because of the shock of what's happening.
Yeah. It's awkward.
Yeah. And so you're not necessarily, it's not like belly laughter where you think like, oh, this is so hilarious. And it's not like a Talladega Nights. Nobody would ever compare the movies. But I mean, yeah, I guess that's what black comedies are supposed to be. But then you mentioned Don't Look Up. That's supposed to be a black comedy, but like it doesn't feel like this movie at all.
Yeah, you can kind of the comedies where you're cringing to watch are less funny to me. But then you have like exceptions like The Office or some parts of Don't Look Up were funny.
Yeah.
But this wasn't. I think the strong suit was definitely not humor.
No.
I think the strong suit was the messages and the acting. And I think also the intrigue of the story let me keep watching. I did get very bored in a lot of parts, I'm not going to lie. So I wouldn't rank this very high just because of my experience with it. But I think the points it's making are important. But, not many people go to movies to get something important out of them,
But you know who does?
You.
The critics who review the stuff on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Which is maybe why, like, in order to pick, maybe this is more about movie selection. Like, all those 6 people are probably fairly representative of the people of Google and, like, the general movie-going population. Mm-hmm. And they're going to this movie being like, I want to be entertained. But unless you're, like, you find this stuff entertaining, which like, yeah, I find thinking about this sort of thing entertaining because I think I like to think about complex problems, but it's nice to think about complex problems that don't like directly interact with my life. So it's still a weird form of escapism. It's just a little bit more. It's just different than other people experience it.
I don't want to watch a movie that points out like I don't know. I don't even know if it pointed anything out specifically, but in general, I don't want to. I think I said this in Don't Look Up, where it was I want to watch a movie to sometimes escape from the harshness of reality, which isn't a healthy way to deal with things. But still, sometimes you watch a movie to have that good experience of escaping. But then when you get parallels of like COVID and like politics in a movie, not in this movie, but in Don't Look Up, that's not what you went in for. It's like I already get this 24/7 on the news and in my classes everywhere. So it's like with this movie, it was less like that. But for someone who is struggling with that, which so many people are, especially now with the modern technology, people are being isolated, they're lonely and everything.
Oh man, we could have a whole Outside the Vault on like the dating culture and like how just completely messed up our society is. Like technology was supposed to make everything easier, but it's really just made everything much harder because of how people are using it.
I'd say relationally.
Yeah,
but like
relationally.
when you're talking about healthcare, you're talking about communication.
Oh yeah,
like that.
Well,
there's
technology is. I guess you could describe technology as a neutral thing, and how people decide to use it is more or less, the results that you're going to get. It certainly has helped extend how long we can live and how easily we can become interconnected. But when it comes to romantic relationships, it almost seems like it's become this, like, it's this interface that's between people. And, there's so many different directions you can go with, like, now people have, like, too many options. They have, like, options overload. They don't know how to pick somebody. They almost need to go back to the Lobster and just pick somebody based. We're both nearsighted, so we obviously are meant to be together. Like,
I wish it was that easy.
And then the people become really jaded, and then you get the alpha male community who's like super jaded. Anybody who calls themselves an alpha male is like really overcompensating, so that's how you know.
Any alpha male really says they are a beta.
It's a really easy litmus test because if somebody says they're an alpha male, that probably means that they weren't at one point and now they're really, really trying to be really hard.
This is stupid, but I think you're right though.
But I've interacted with that, like gone down the YouTube rabbit holes enough, just like out of curiosity, that I can see it's so weird how it messes with people's heads and they get into these echo chambers. And I don't even think that the Lobster's necessarily even getting at that, but they're more just saying like, why does society put so much value on this? But at the same time, like the ending's a little confusing, right? Because it's like,
well, it kind of leaves it up to you.
Yeah.
Like whether or not you think that love is real, almost.
Because they lost. She, Rachel Weisz. I don't think they ever say her name. She's like the narrator.
Yes.
She lost her vision because she was maliciously, attacked for loving someone. She lost her vision. And so then she loses the thing, and the intent with that, which the leader of the loners is like sadistic, because she doesn't like directly kill people, but what she does is she like takes the thing that they want the most and she like twists it. She does it with the hotel manager by like she forces at gunpoint the guy to say that he doesn't love his wife, and then she gives him a gun and says, okay, you don't love her, so shoot her and you'll live. And then there's no bullets in the gun. Well, that's and now she makes them, okay, you still have to live together and pretend that you love each other. Now there's like factual information that you don't love each other because this guy acted in this way. And then she's trying to do the same thing with the eyes by blinding the narrator. But instead, what Colin Farrell's character decides to do is to blind himself, which is like extremely uncomfortable final sequence where has a knife and he's going to stab his eye with the knife. And obviously, fortunately, they don't let you see that. But, they don't actually...
Did you say unfortunately or fortunately?
Fortunately. I didn't want to see it. I could already feel the pain.
Unfortunately. I wanted to see it.
You have to go to other movies if you want to see that sort of stuff. Just, if you want to go in a movie, just I don't know. It's that's just a weird reason to want to watch a movie.
The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead, or like Hostel, or Saw.
Yeah, Saw, definitely. Yeah.
Movies that I have seen.
Ben, you should watch Saw.
I have seen Saw.
You gotta push your
I've
limits.
seen Saw and Saw 2.
Okay, you're right. Yeah. You gotta watch all 9 though.
I know, I haven't made it.
The 9th one just came out this year.
I've heard, don't they get like gorier in every single one?
Kind of. The second one's super
They're
gory.
really campy though. Yeah. That's the thing about like a lot of times the really gory movies are like they're like there's like a campy kind of gore, so like I guess that's the saving grace is that like it doesn't necessarily look realistic because it's like practical effects and stuff.
Yeah. And then they put Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson in there, so it's just randomness, and Saw is so random now. Anyway, but yeah, I think I agree with you. But yeah, like the choice itself of whether or not he was going to blind himself, was he going to do it for her? Was he not? He's even like he was contemplating, is love even real? He's contemplating that.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell is. And also note, we did a movie about Colin Farrell 2 weeks ago too.
As the Penguin, I don't think at least didn't acknowledge that he played the Penguin.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I even realized that he played the Penguin. Like,
yeah. He looks much different.
He had so many prosthetics and he didn't sound like
So
Colin
actually,
Farrell.
Colin Farrell gained 40 pounds for The Lobster.
Oh, he gained 40. Yeah, that's the thing. I saw him in an interview and I was like, this guy, he looks way skinnier. I was like, in The Lobster, he's like sort of he's not overweight, but he's probably getting there.
Well, then he's even bigger as the Penguin. So I don't know what he did there.
I think that was more prosthetics. I think.
Okay.
Now, I could be because I think I saw an interview of him and he did not look like.
Yeah.
He looked like he was a lot more in shape.
Well, he's gonna have to do that in every episode of his new TV series. So.
Wait, what? Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
HBO Max.
The Penguin. Yeah, Colin Farrell. He's an interesting. I mean, he's a good talent. The first movie I can remember watching him in is Minority Report, which is a good movie. He plays he's like a side character more or less, but he's still kind of important to the plot. And then he's in he's in The Killing of the Sacred Deer, which is another. I would say that movie is like on another level from this movie. Like Dogtooth, I would not recommend to anyone. It's really uncomfortable, like way more uncomfortable than this movie, and really weird. But it does still have the same sort of like dystopian society vibe of like people forcing people into doing things, and they don't understand that they're being forced, and then they start to, and all of that. The Killing of the Sacred Deer is more of a like thriller, mystery sort of intrigue movie, but it has the same like tonally it's very similar with how people talk and so forth. I do want to mention there's really no way to put this in that makes sense, but you should still get in contact with Hedman Anglin Agency if you want insurance. We're back in the Hedman Anglin Studios, and we really appreciate. We're dubbing it the Hedman Anglin Studios officially, and we really appreciate like everything that they've done to provide for us a space and to just kind of just say we want to come over at this time and do it, and they're really cool about it and let us use their equipment. And so if you want to save money on auto, home, and business insurance, call 614-486-7300. That's 614-486-7300. And make sure to tell them that Ben and Zach sent you. Our offer's still on the table for the cardboard cutout. So
I forgot about that.
we want people to act on this.
Yeah, we will legit get cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, we will. We're not kidding.
And we're gonna get ourselves some too.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep Ben's. I'll keep mine.
I think for the question. So did you see that like on Spotify now you can put like a question?
Yeah, we put up a poll, right?
Yeah, we put up a poll
Batman.
and questions. There might not really be a good poll for this week, but
Did you watch this movie?
Yeah, but we'll probably put like a questionnaire of like if you had to turn yourself into an animal, what would you turn yourself into? Because I'd be curious to see what other people had to say about that.
We should tell people the poll results from.
We should.
I think that's a good idea to add.
Yeah. So let's see. What's the best way to do this? I think we can just go to Anchor.
Well, while you're waiting, I also had another crazy thing that most movies don't even do. So actually, this movie, the production of it was almost. It said I found this online, so hopefully it's true. Was almost entirely done in natural light with no makeup.
Wow.
So like that's crazy because they were in the forest, and in the forest like that's different lighting. That takes a lot of different things to go on with that. So imagine filming that and getting the light, right with that without extra lights. And then also like in the hotels, like in the dark scenes and everything like that, like you just had natural light there. So it was like kind of crazy. I mean, I don't know how the inners and outers are for lighting and makeup. I mean, I hope I never do, but it's kind of. I think that's impressive to give it more of the I don't know, natural feel, because this movie felt very natural, but like also very unnatural.
And that's why when you watch the movie, you're like, wow, this looks different than other movies, and that would explain it. Like if they did film in natural light, that would give it definitely a different view. The cinematography it's fairly standard, I would say, but there's definitely some interesting shots, and the way it's edited, I think, is pretty interesting too. I think it cuts in like very deliberate and often like turns.
Yeah, I didn't like it that much for the cuts.
Yeah, I think it could maybe be a little
more cinematic.
Yeah, I suppose, but that wasn't really what they were going for.
I know.
So this is something that I've heard people talk about a lot, but for our poll, we said which Batman movie is the best, and I think we got like 10 responses. But we're obviously our crowd tends to be more Nolan centric because Nolan's movies were the only ones that got votes.
The Batman didn't get any votes.
The Batman's got no votes for being the best. Batman 1989 also did not get any votes for being the best.
Well, I'm glad.
Did you not like that?
No, like comparatively.
I mean, I feel like that's the thing about ranking movies is that like, how do you even compare Batman 1989 to like the current Batman?
You don't. Just kick it off the poll at that point.
We also threw in the Lego Batman movie for fun.
Yeah,
I did.
Did anyone vote for that?
Nobody voted for that.
Thank goodness.
I swear.
Will Arnett.
I feel like somebody would have voted for it. But anyway, so I think maybe one person voted for it. Yes, that would make sense. So one person voted for The Dark Knight Rises. I don't know how you can argue that is the best Batman movie. It is
not
the best Batman movie. It's very messy. I'd like to watch it again. I think my plan is for this summer, as part of like, it seems like a summer thing to do, is to review all three of the Nolan Batmans. We might not do them all like back to back to back, but at least hit all three.
But we might.
We'll see what we do. And I just don't think you can make an argument. I think you can make an argument that's not as bad as some people would say it is, but I still don't think it's the best. So it really comes down to Batman Begins versus The Dark Knight, which Batman Begins got 3 votes, so 30%, and The Dark Knight got 6 votes at 60%. So The Dark Knight traditionally would be the movie that people would say is the best Batman.
So only the Christopher Nolan trilogy was voted for?
Yes.
Oh.
None of the other ones. Now, I heard other people, I was listening to another podcast where they were ranking, and they threw in like, I haven't watched Batman Returns or Batman Forever or Batman and Robin. I know it's Batman and Robin is probably considered the worst.
Well, those are fun movies. Those aren't like great, but they're fun, you know?
Yeah, and I want to watch them. I think I started watching Batman Returns at one point. But yeah, they're way more like comic booky, like campy sort of things, because the first two are like Tim Burton movies, which everyone knows Tim Burton's like a kook. He kind of
it's true.
He kind of does things, his way. And so I think the other ones we were throwing in there were like Batman Mask of Phantasm, which is like a theatrically released animated movie related to the Batman the Animated Series.
Well, then you also have, like The Killing Joke. Like you have all those cool animated movies.
I don't think they were counting those because they weren't theatrically released, but I think I've heard some of those are like very good. Like The Killing Joke, especially, I've heard is good.
I started watching a few of those on it, so I don't have it anymore. We had it actually, right?
Yeah,
HBO Max. And I didn't even say what it was. But it was cool actually. I think the Batman animated stuff is like actually really good comparatively to other animated superhero shows that are out there. Especially What If.
I think there's rumors I've heard that Matt Reeves is doing some sort of Batman animated thing.
Matt Reeves is helping direct The Penguin.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Matt Reeves is going to have his little fingers involved in all of this.
His little fingers.
I saw him talk, and I was like, for some reason, his voice didn't sound how I expected him to sound.
Is his voice in lowercase letters?
No.
That's what people say.
Is it?
I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe that would be a good way to describe it. I was very unfamiliar with Matt Reeves before he made the Batman, though. So yeah, The Dark Knight. Now, the argument against The Dark Knight, I think, comes back to something that we
this will be an argument forever. I can already tell.
That we talked about last episode was that like The Dark Knight's doesn't feel as much like a Batman movie as it does a Joker movie or like a crime movie, or it's like a movie. You know, that was the thing. That was why it was game changing. Was it was like not just about Batman. So they really tried to in the new Batman make it all about Batman. Like Batman was in almost every scene, and he was barely Bruce Wayne and all of that stuff. But Batman Begins is also there's an interesting argument to be made because of it's fascinating. It's got to be one of the best origin stories.
I voted for that one.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about this when we actually review it because the idea of fear being the driving force and like him becoming his fear, I think is like one of the most interesting things they did with the Batman character, like just that I've seen. So that's a recap of the poll. We also asked a question, which we'll probably ask the question this week, like I said. It's what would you rate the Batman out of 10? Josh, who was on the podcast, gave it an 8. I, who was also on the podcast.
Wait, there was another question?
Gave it an 8. Yeah, there was another one. It was just the rating.
I'm gonna vote.
And then we had 2 people give their opinion. So I want to give a shout out to, so this is, I don't know him personally, but I believe his first name's Jaden. So, and he and somebody that I do know named Ike started a podcast called the Gotham Geeks. And if you really want to delve into the world of Batman, I would recommend listening to their podcast. I believe they have 6 episodes out. They're on Spotify and YouTube. So check out the Gotham Geeks. He said 10 out of 10, and he believes it's a masterpiece. And these, I would say, are more solid authorities on the subject of Batman. And I've probably spent more time interacting with Batman. Zach and I tend to cover a lot of bases, but also probably Zach and I are more in the Marvel world than we are in the DC world. So if you want a perspective from more pro DC fans, then I would go to the Gotham Geeks to hear that. And then our friend Esteban gave it a 9.2. So
where do you see that? Is it on Anchor?
Maybe it's just they just added this feature, so I don't know. There's sometimes like if the app hasn't updated or something. Okay. Or maybe it's just on the computer version of Spotify.
Okay. Anyway, I mean, that's an off-cast question anyway.
Yeah.
We just do all of our business on here.
Little does everyone know this is the only time that Zach and I talk outside of this.
Probably. That's almost realistic.
Yes. The busy life of podcasters.
Yep.
Who podcasting isn't their full-time job. Unfortunately. Yeah. Sometimes I wish it was.
It would be a nicer, like, it would be a more chill
lifestyle.
Yeah.
I haven't fully figured out whether it would be as fulfilling of a lifestyle. I think it would be as fulfilling as you would make it.
Well, that's yeah. The more work you put into it, so then you could do different shows and stuff like that, and do something that you want to do. You know, not that I don't want to do this. This is what we want to do, but anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to secretly say something. Please listen. No.
Please listen. Yeah, get us out of the current fields that we're in and pull us into here. Force us to do this full time.
Yes, as society. Yeah, we are stuck in society.
We deserve it.
Ben and I are stuck in society.
We're stuck in society.
So help us be like this
telling
movie.
us to take a pragmatic route and get a good career where you make a limited but steady amount of money, and you invest that money, and then you retire when you're 65. And then you travel the world until you get some sort of disease, and then you die.
Until you get some sort of...
And that's like the most ideal way that it could happen.
In your sleep, yeah.
Yeah, maybe Yorgos Lanthimos could make a movie about like the American dream or like...
Well, there's already a lot of movies about that.
That's true. He doesn't. He's not even from America though.
Borat.
So he wouldn't have a good perspective on the American dream. Yeah. So I guess we're bringing back ratings, I think, but we'll just do it out of 10, and it'll just be kind of like whatever.
It'll be based off of our feelings, yeah.
Yeah, and so I would give this movie. I'm gonna mostly base stuff off of my Letterboxd ratings. I think I give this a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so that would be an 8 out of 10.
Whoa.
I am trying to go through my Letterboxd and maybe be a little bit more harsh, because as I watch more movies, it becomes they're like. This happened, like there was a greater number of 4 stars, and I was like, not all of these do I now consider 4 stars because I have more to compare it to. But like I said, it's kind of based on my feelings. 8 out of 10, just great filming style, very, very interesting premise, something that I'm drawn to in terms of like how intriguing, and it won the jury award because of how it inquired and pushed the boundaries.
Inquirious it is.
It was inquirious and pushed the boundaries of film, and that's something that I like. And then it had that, you know, the most important aspect to me, the ambiguous ending.
You just love being subjective, huh?
I love art being subjective. I don't want it to necessarily tell me exactly how I should feel, because if it did, I feel like I would have more problems with the movie if it was like, you have to think this way. It's definitely trying to push you in a direction, which maybe we should end the podcast talking about that. But give your
6.4 Minecraft number. But I think that comes from, I didn't enjoy it that much, but I like it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what is it like? You know, like you like a roller coaster. You go on a roller coaster, you love the roller coaster, but the line was 6 hours, you know?
Yeah.
But you still enjoyed the experience. You're glad you did it, but you know, you don't want to do it until next summer.
Right.
You know?
You don't want to wait in that 6-hour line again.
Yeah.
You'd rather ride you get more you go get more quantity.
And tickets to Cedar Point are like $45, and you know, especially in the summer, it's so busy. Like, and I got a sub there once, and it was like $34 for a Subway sub. I was so mad.
I think I spent like $17 on Panda Express.
Yeah, that's half of what I was so mad. I was
charged like individually for each. Like, here's $3 for lettuce, $3 for onions.
It was $17 for a 6-inch.
Oh my god.
So then I got a foot long and being dumb.
Yeah. The reason they do that is because they have a monopoly on all the food. So
I know, it's like Disney World.
Yeah.
Oh man. But Disney World.
You can't go out of the park very easily, so
yeah.
It would take you like 2 hours to drive to the Subway in Sandusky.
Because it's so isolated. They isolate it for a reason, so you have to.
I mean, Cedar Point especially, because it's literally in a like peninsula. Like.
Well, luckily, Kings Island isn't that far, so you can just be like, I'm gonna go to Kings Island instead.
Yeah.
But their food's
which is almost
too.
as good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, us in Ohio are really spoiled, because to us, like, Kings Island's like a B-tier amusement park because of Cedar Point. But like, to almost any other state, Kings Island would be like an exceptional amusement park. Like,
Cedar Point is incredible.
Cedar Point's just that good. So if you ever make it over to Ohio, it's a really depressing state. There's a lot of things not going well for it.
But people move here.
I say that lovingly, because I do love Ohio.
Columbus is an expanding area. You know?
Columbus is one of the only places that has lots of things going for it. So if you want to move to Columbus is great. I mean, we're getting the Intel plant that's coming in. There's a lot of moving and shaking happening in the capital.
Crime rates are increasing, so we got that going for us, especially on OSU campus.
Yeah. Other cities, I've heard maybe there's a bit of a resurgence. Cincinnati might not be so bad, but there's definitely a fair amount of cities on the decline. Your Daytons, your Youngstowns, your Akrons, Cleveland has. There's nice areas of all of these places, but I'm talking generally the whole area, and because Ohio is more of a blue collar state, and a lot of blue collar industries have been hit hard, and plants have moved. And that has not boded well. And then we got the opioid epidemic, and there's just all sorts of problems. Lots of drug problems in Ohio.
There are, yeah. There definitely are. We get taught about that when we're little in school and stuff like that, about Ohio. But anyway, they had people come and talk to us about it. Yeah. Anyway, that's really depressing.
I guess that's the mood that this movie puts you in. Do you think that the conclusions that this movie comes to are helpful or beneficial?
Yes, helpful.
Helpful but not beneficial?
You know when you learn something new, and you learn the critiques of it before you learn the content of it. I know that's really abstract, but like if you're learning a new science concept, but then you have to learn the theories that led up to it. Like if you're learning about the atom, you have to learn about Dalton and Rutherford and, Millikan and stuff like that, and Bohr. And you have to kind of learn about why you're learning about it. I think that applies to this movie very abstractly, because I think that learning about critiques are helpful to discovering truth to the fuller extent. And that can be in any area of life,
Yeah.
Even if someone is completely wrong and so dumb, they can make you think about something about what you believe, And I think, of course I'm pro-marriage. Like, it's great. It's God established it. It's everything like that. But then you also have, like, terrible marriages out there. But,
that could have been avoided, potentially.
Yeah.
Ahead of time.
Yeah, and, like, just forethought. So marriage really is a forethought game. a planning game, a preparing game, a game of discipline, and also of patience and on love. But love isn't just a feeling; it's a commitment as well. And I think this movie kind of says that there is a chance that love just doesn't exist, and I don't think that's true at all. I think love exists.
Yeah, I think it is kind of arguing that, right? Like because it's stripping everything away except for love, and then it's kind of arguing that, well, 99% of love is like contrived and it's just like two people trying to use each other to get to an end, which is why so many marriages fail, because once the end is met, then you're like, well, what's the point of this? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I mean, we're like, when I was little, I was told 50% of marriages end in divorce in America.
Yeah.
And now it's over 60.
Yeah.
Just in my lifetime.
Well, I actually think the divorce, I've heard varying things. The divorce rate might be falling, but that's a little misleading because I think less people are getting married.
That's true. Yeah, and that's bad too. So
that's not, which it means they're solving the problem in a way that makes it a new problem. Yeah. Essentially.
And this gets into a lot of different things, but really, if I'm going to focus on this movie, I'm going to say that I do think love is an objective thing. That is a commitment. It's a commitment to loving each other and to eventually, if you feel called to have kids and stuff like that. And I don't think this movie describes that like a conclusion in that way. But also, I think that this movie does point out helpful things, as I said. Learning the theories and learning the critiques before the actual concept. I think that this movie points out that, specifically within the society that we live in, and I can't speak about other societies, but in the American culture and everything like that, it is a means to an end. Like, you are trying to just get married for the fact of, let's have offspring. I feel a desire to get married, so I won't be lonely, so we can be well financially, and even, for lust and stuff like that. Lots of people just do it for those reasons and not the actual reasons, that are supposed to be there. So yeah, that's right. What I would say. And then there's also people that can be single. So I think that's great too. So I think that movie points that out. Like, not everyone has to be married. This isn't.
It polarizes it. So it's like, there should be this middle ground where it's like, yes, people can be married and be happy. You can't force everyone to be single. That wouldn't really make sense, because that's what the loners are doing. But also, if you force everyone to be married, then you're going to force people to start faking things, and they're building their marriages on foundations that are not sustainable. And you can't be surprised when those marriages fall apart.
Yeah. I mean, I say this, I'm not just saying this whimsically. This is stuff that's been proven, and I've seen it in other people's lives and in mine. So, I mean, if you disagree, email or talk
email themovievaultpod@gmail.com.
Because critiques help, That's what I think.
I'll make a critique of the Movie Vault while you're at it.
Yeah, a 5-star critique.
5-star critique.
Hey, they do have ratings on Spotify now.
Yeah, ratings on Spotify now. So hit the 5-star button. It's literally the easiest thing you could do.
Yeah.
And it helps us. You wouldn't believe how much it would help us.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Think about it. You have a big assignment tonight.
We could land a deal with Spotify for $100 million, just like Joe Rogan.
That's crazy.
And that's just by every individual just hitting that 5-star.
He had $100 million.
$100 million.
Oh my goodness.
Of course, he also has the biggest podcast in the entire world. So it's a bad comparison. They've given other people less money for exclusive deals.
Actors don't make that much.
No, it's crazy.
Robert Downey Jr.
And that's $100 million.
Doesn't make.
I don't know how that deal works. Like, is $100 million at like one time? Do you just get like $100 million? Like,
that's crazy.
I'm assuming he's also still making money on top of the $100 million.
Oh my goodness.
The thing
I can't even.
Yeah.
That's like Jeff Bezos's Saturday, though. That's the thing. So it really is dependent.
And that's just a comedian who decided to get a mic out 12 years ago.
Yeah, I don't even think he's that good. I mean, he's good, but
yeah, that's the thing. He's kind of
regular guy.
He's kind of a regular guy. That's why so many people listen to him. He resonates with the general public.
Man, I'm really jealous right now. That's crazy.
Wait till the Joe Rogan movie comes out. We're gonna review that movie. Who would play Joe Rogan?
The Rock.
The Rock.
I always say The Rock for who would play.
I feel like, in a weird way, do you know who Dana White is?
No.
He's like the MMA founder, and Joe Rogan's also an MMA announcer, and they both look very similar. I feel like maybe it's just because they're both bald, but I don't think he's not even an actor, so and he's probably older than Joe Rogan.
Oh wow, he does look like him.
I think he's a lot taller, or something. Okay.
Yeah, he's a little bit older too. Jeez, or Vin Diesel.
Vin
Diesel could play him.
Just playing the Fast and the Furious cast.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're...
Oh, wait. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. Yeah. What other bald actor? I mean, technically they don't have to be.
Jason
bald.
Statham.
Jason Statham could actually work. I think because the problem is like Vin Diesel and The Rock don't share the same ethnicity as Joe Rogan, which like wouldn't be that important in like most movies. But if you're trying to make like a realistic portrayal biopic, that most people would be like, well, that doesn't exactly make sense because that would like change how you portray the story.
I was just thinking bald guys.
Bald guys. Yeah, Jason Statham could probably do it, or any number of guys who are like kind of built.
Yeah.
Or just have Christian Bale work out and put on a bunch of weight.
Or have what's this guy? What was the guy that we were just talking about? What's his name again?
Oh, Colin Farrell?
Yeah, just have him lose a lot of weight.
Just have him lose a lot of weight. And build a lot of muscle though.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's kind of ripped. All right, with that, we're going to close the vault. And next week we are going to have our 50th episode. Huge milestone for our podcast. Now I was thinking about it, and in some ways it's like, it's crazy that we've made it to 50 episodes. On the other hand, it did take us like a year and a half to get to 50 episodes.
But it doesn't feel like that long.
No, it doesn't, which it's kind of crazy how fast time goes by. But it makes sense. We took sort of a 6-month sabbatical, so that would like the numbers add up.
Keep our fans on the edge of their seat.
Right. To where it would make sense that it goes that way. So, yeah, look forward to that. And I'm gonna close the vault. I'm gonna flap my eagle wings.
For it.